Morning from Papa's Custom Cars. We're back in the shop today after a couple of traveling weeks. Today I'm going to be finishing up the tank, doing a little bit of grinding. I'll kind of take you guys, show you that when it's all done. I've got it all riveted, put together. I got to do a few more spot welds on the drop. But other than that, that's done. The weather has turned to the worst here in Utah. It's dropped down into the 40s at night and 50s and 60s during the day. I know a lot of you that's hot weather, but for me that's cold. Today's our eclipse. It was a total bust. We've got cloud cover so we can't see it anyway. So we're back in the shop, and today we're going to work on, or I should say the whole weekend, I'm going to work on finishing up this drop tank, getting it sealed up. I've got my etching primer coming, should be here tomorrow, so I can get that at least the base of it all painted. I'm not going to be painting the edges yet, but I'm going to get the bottom painted and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's our agenda for this weekend. Hang out, and I'll fast forward through any of the boring parts for you, throw a little music on so you can hear that. But that's kind of where we're at today, or should say this weekend. No car shows or anything going on, and even if there were, I wouldn't be going out to them because it's chilly cold. So that's all I have for you this weekend. So hang out and let's get this all done. Okay, so back at the tank here. Before I finish welding everything up, I want to get the holes drilled for it. Make sure that we've got everything set up. I've got two lines that I'm running. One is from the Holley injection system. It's the high pressure hose for the electric fuel pump. That's got to be running at 60 pounds. And then I've got the steel braided that I'm going to be using for the carbureted fuel pump. It'll be running more like 6 to 8 pounds per square inch. Basically, one's running 6 AN, the other one's running a 10 AN. So we've got a little bit different size. I may end up just changing this and going 6 AN on both of them. And that way I save the grief later. One of the things that I'll do here is, since this is already set up and all the fittings came with the Holley Sniper system, that's all 6 AN. I'll probably end up going to 6 AN on both sides, and that way if something happens later and I need to come out of the other side, I'll have the same basic line on both. Be able to Y them in or what have you. I am going to be running grommets, so I bought a set of grommets, and the only thing I need to do is I got my my caliper out, or my micrometer out, and I've got to measure the size of the hose. On both of them, they both seem to be right around the same size, 0.64 outside. So I've got to get my grommet to be that size, so it's easy enough to find the one that fits. You go to 7/8, and you see it's just a pinch smaller at 0.58. So at 0.58, that's not going to work, so I am going to have to go to the 1 inch. And as you'll see, it's 0.67, so it'll be perfect. Meaning the line will go through this without any trouble at all. And it'll give it a nice, safe place to ride. The reason you want to do that is you don't want this to cut your line as it's wiggling around or anything that could happen. Stuff moves. So I've got to drill this to be able to accept that size of a grommet. So the easy way to do that, measure the size of the grommet. Come to the outside, and it's going to be close, but keeping it around, it's a 1-inch grommet. So the outside is 1 inch, and I can see that there's a little bit of a gap in there, mainly because this doesn't go all the way in. But it kind of tells me that this is a 1 inch, and it even says it right on it that it's a 1 inch. So I'm going to need 2 of these for those holes. So that means I'm going to have to drill these holes out to a 1 inch hole. So I've got my step bit to do that, and that's what I'm going to work on next. I've already got one started. I did drill a pilot hole. Even with a step bit, it is a lot easier to set your pilot, and that way you can make sure that you go through easy. You move all this stuff back because it's definitely going to move around. As anyone can tell you, a step bit definitely takes the work out of it. So let's go ahead and measure it. See, right now we're at 0.88, so that's not going to be big enough. So I'm actually going to have to go get a 1 inch bit. But this will get me started. So I'll go ahead and do the other side. I'm going to have to bang these back out because when you put pressure on it, it definitely wants to move it. I do have another step bit. I'm going to try to find it. It is a bigger one than this one, so it'll definitely make life easier. I just have to go find it. So that kind of gives you an idea how this is going to work. The grommet basically fits in to the hole, and then your hoses come out of the hole. You don't have to worry about chafing or anything that the hose may or may not do. As you can tell, this hole is too small for this grommet. So I'm going to go find my other step bit or a 1 inch bit, whichever I can find here in the garage, and I'll be back with you in just a minute. Well, that took a little longer than expected. I had to go to Harbor Freight. It should be Hobo Freight, I guess is what Derek at Script calls it, to get a big step bit because mine disappeared. That's what happens when you don't use them for about 2 or 3 years. I gotta go to 1 inch, so right there. Gotta go in 1, 2, 3, or so. Let's see. Oh, we're almost there. The other side's got the measurements on it. There it is. 1 inch. Let's see. We are almost there. There goes everything. Give me a minute while I pick it all back up again. It's my micrometer stand here. Most sensitive piece anyway didn't fall. Alrighty. But all my grommets fell. So we're going to take a break for a minute and I'll be right back. Okay, to avoid that from happening again, I'm going to flip her over. I need to clear the holes from the other angle. Okay, because it's thin sheet metal, it bends, and there's little bitty pieces in here, and if you grab them with your fingers, you'll stick yourself. So it's easier to take your needle nose and look hard to get it. And grab a hold of the little pieces. Yep, see, I already cut myself. Okay, so we're gonna go back at it again. A little more shot.
voila. These still, like I said, I'm still going to run a bead across here. All it is right now is just tacked in. I wanted to make sure I got everything lined up before I put the final on it. Get everything all test fitted. That looks like it's perfect. The way I did it was I measured from the center of this 6-inch thing, and then they're 1.5 inches on each side. So I need a center on the 2 outlets on the tank. Like so. Spin it, get it right. And your lines. Like so. Here we're going to come out, we're going to go right into a 90 on both of them. I'm probably going to drop this one a little bit more in an angle like this, and then they'll run next to each other over to the lines. The only other thing I've got to do is pop one in the back, and that's for the return line. The return line will come up from the bottom here into the tank. There's the one on this side, and then on this side there'll be a vent that drops down. I'm probably going to end up hard lining that one. Possibly, I haven't figured it out yet. There is a vent that runs all the way to the front for the canister evap system. I may use that as the vent because it gives you a long distance before it dumps out. So that'd be good because that'll give me extra line for that. And then, like I said, I've got a few of these little welds I've got to drill out and then put in new rivets. I've got all the rivets ground down and flattened now, so they all are where they're supposed to be. So this is ready to be seam sealed. I'll just run a etching primer across it, then seam seal the whole thing, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be functional. This will probably get coated with undercoating more than likely, and that way I don't have to worry about this rusting anymore. I'll have it all primed up except the lips. I'm going to leave those unprimed, but I'll get the belly of everything ready, and this thing just set in the car for now. That's kind of basically the end of the tank stuff, with the exception of seam sealing it and priming it. Here's line number 2. One's going to be braided, one's just what came with the sniper kit. Yeah, this is going to have to be cut because it's a mess. I can't get it through that line because it's all frayed. So I'll worry about that later, but I just wanted to get everything set up before I finish tacking everything in place to make sure that everything fit well. But that's kind of where we're at with the tank for right now. If I get this thing primed out and sealed by the end of the weekend, I'll give you a final shot of it in its last glory, I guess you'd say. But that's kind of where we're at today. It's Saturday night. It's time for dinner, so I'm going to call it. I'm going to take my O-rings that fell and my micrometer and put this all back together again. But I'll see you in the morning. It'll be just like that. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Sunday morning. Back in the shop today. As you remember, last night the tank fell and everything slid off, including all my O-rings, flew all over the floor. So before I get started this morning, I want to clean up a little bit. I'm waiting on my etching primer, and I've got to go ahead and smooth out some of this tank thing before I get it finished up today, and then can move on to the car itself. I've also got to prep my 2015 Trax because we are selling it. So I got to get in on Marketplace, KSL, and all the local places. I was going to sell it through a dealership, but I got offered $5,000, and I went and looked at their websites, and they're selling them for $13,000. So I figure I'll sell it to someone in the public for about $8,500. They're getting a good deal. Car's been maintained its entire life, so they'll get a good deal on the car. I'll get a little bit more money for it, and then my new car should be here within the next week or so.
Contrary to popular belief and everybody out there in the world, I bought a Chevy Bolt. Not the Volt, but a Bolt. If you do the research on it, you can see what kind of car it is. This is their last year of production on it. They're retooling the factory that it's built in for the new Chevy electric pickups. So I'll have that tomorrow. One of the things that you hear is about these electric cars is the fact that there's all these issues. But I'll do a separate video on that once it's here, and then I can explain some of the research that I've done with it. For those of you who don't know, I've got 30 solar panels up on the roof of this house that generate enough power to run 2 heavy AC units and my garage, with a $5 to $15 a month bill during the summer. And it generates during the winter too, just not as much. But basically, that's my gas station. So there's no point in me not owning a little electric car. Well, not little, but I guess it's considered a compact or mid-size, who knows, with the size of cars now. But there's no point in not owning an electric car for around town when I can charge it for free at my house. So that's definitely one of the reasons. But I'll go into that in more detail once it shows up. I'll show it all to you, but I've done a bunch of research on it, and I can kind of clarify some of the misnomers that are out there. Believe you me, I have gas cars. And over there, I've got 7 or 8 cars that run on gas. One of them gets behind me is not very fuel efficient, but it's not made for that. So when that comes in, I'll do a whole video on it. But starting out in the garage this morning, I like to start my day by getting everything put away that I don't need. Kind of get everything straightened up. I'll usually do it before I quit for the night, but decided to do it this morning. And one of those projects was all these O-rings that were all over my floor last night. And that's kind of one of the reasons I said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go in for the night. I want to get those back in their compartments and put away. That way that's all done. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at this morning. And we'll get that done, finished up. I'll bring you back when I've still got to do some tack welding on a little bit of the panel. It's not fully tack welded on one of the sides. I've got to get that done. And then I've got to get it all smoothed out, especially the corners. I don't want the rough edges on the corners and all that kind of thing, because it's just a place for rust to gather when you've got exposed corners like that. So that's what we're working on today. Okay, this is a single part sealer, or a single type sealer. On the interior of the car, I used a dual part, but this particular one is a single. So you can apply it to primer or bare metal. The only thing you need to do, like I did, was I grabbed my grease and wax remover, wiped down all the metal to make sure there was no imperfections or anything on it, scuffed it up on the edges, and then put the sealer in place. Like I said, this is underneath the car, so it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be, has to work. So I've got my holes cut for my grommets, and just notice that looks crooked, but it's not. Guarantee you. It just looks when you're looking at it, it might be the holes. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's underneath the car. Nobody can see it. But I seam sealed all of the edges up on the sides, pretty much everything. It takes about 30 minutes for it to tack up and be ready to paint. But we're not painting it for at least 24 hours. I do want to flip it inside out, and I want to seam seal the inside also, just to make sure there are no leaks. This only took about a half a tube, if even that, maybe quarter of a tube. So I've got plenty left over to do the inside. I've just got to wait a little while, let this dry, and once it dries, then I'm ready to go on the inside. There are also some small holes that I need to just go through and fill. It's where some of the drill came through, and then I chose not to use that particular one because there was a rivet right underneath it. But other than that, as you can see, it's all seam sealed and ready to go. Again, I have not trimmed the base because it's not in there yet. I like to leave a little bit extra. This side I know is where it's supposed to be, along with over there. So I'm good at these two corners, but these two corners are going to need a little bit more work. So I'm going to leave them at a full 6 inches, and then I can come back later and cut off. This side and this side can have about 1 inch, 2 inches removed from it also. But like I said, I'm going to wait until I'm in the car
before I make the final adjustments of this entire pan. The only other thing I've got to do is drill holes for the bolts. Then I've got a rubber mat that's going to sit underneath the gas tank, and that's to avoid vibration. A lot of times you'll get some of these aluminum tanks where if they vibrate a lot, they'll actually crack. So in order to avoid that, what I'm going to do is put rubber on underneath the gas tank, kind of the same way they do on the metal straps. They crank those straps up, but there's little bitty rubber like gaskets on them to keep them from, rubbing on the car. So that's kind of where we're at with this. I figured I'd bring you in, show you real quick. I'm going to bring my thing back and fill these 2 holes, and then I'm going to check for other holes, of course. And that way I can get this completely done today, at least the base of it, and be shooting, etch, and prime it out tomorrow. You can put the seam sealer on both ways. They say a 2-part, you should always prime it first, but single, you can go ahead and clean the metal. Just make sure the metal is super clean. I went through and ground a bunch of it off. As you can see, there's some shiny marks. That's kind of where I went through and ground it. And then, like I said, I wiped the whole thing down with the wax and grease remover to get all the junk off of it, I guess you'd say. And then when I flip it over, I'll do the same thing. While I was working last night, I don't know if I got it on video or not, I put the 2 holes, one for the return line, one for the vent line at the bottom of the tank. Haven't decided how I'm going to run those yet. They are going to loop out, but I might run hard line on the vent. But like I said, there's a vent line that runs from the back of the car all the way to the front, because there used to be a purge canister or some garbage like that, smog equipment. This was a California car. So I can use that existing line as a longer vent line. So it definitely makes it a lot longer, and I won't spit out gas all the time anyway. With the new fuel injection system, it should be fine. But that's kind of where we're at with everything right now. The only thing I suggest is if you're doing this kind of stuff, gloves. I had my 7 mil nitrate gloves on for this because you don't want this stuff on you. You'll notice it's on my shirt. Good luck with that. But that's kind of where we're at. I'll bring you back when I get her flipped over and I get the inside done so you can see that too. But that's kind of where we're at with it. Welcome back again. It's about 4 o'clock. Didn't get much done today. Did get the seam seal all done on the tank. So it's ready to go. One side's already dry, or it's dry. It dries like within half an hour. You can paint it, but I'm going to go ahead and wait. Went ahead and did the inside. A lot of people might ask why I'm doing the inside and the outside of the seams. And that's just so that water doesn't get in from either direction. Something spilled in the trunk or water got in the trunk somehow. It's the lowest point, so it's going to want to go down into this tank, and it being all steel, it will rust. And then the same kind of goes for the outside. I don't want any outside material getting into the seams of the drop. So I've got it sealed also, and I've got every edge sealed that I welded. Everything is all sealed up, and it's pretty much done at this point, with the exception of, like I said, at the top. So as you can see, it's sealed inside along the edges on all the edges, and it's also sealed on the outside on all the edges. This is sandable, so you can make a mess out of it all you want. It's not like caulk where do it once and you're dry forever. With this type of material, you can wait 24 hours and then sand it down, which I will here where the tank sits. But as far as the rest goes, yeah, I'll sand it up a little bit smoother, make it look a little bit nicer before I prime it. So with that, I think I'm going to call it a day. I spent most of the day detailing the little 2015 Chevy Trax I have. I'm going to be putting it up for sale, so I needed to go through that today and clean it up. It was pretty dirty. Detailed the whole car out, made it look really, really nice. Good little car, but it's time for me to go ahead and sell it and then buy my new car. Hopefully will be here within a week, 2 weeks at the most. Last I heard, it was on a train and it was passing Ohio, somewhere around there. Anyway, that was last week, Monday, or Tuesday. So probably going to show up here in town within the next few days by transport, or I should say by train, because they all come by train here. And I've got to get this thing sold within the next week or so. So if you know anybody looking for a good little car, gets 35 plus miles to a gallon, depending upon who drives it. When I drive it, I don't get that great of gas mileage, but when the wife does, she gets closer to 40 in it. But it's a good little car, and it served its purpose. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. That's all I'm going to be working on today. I will get to this thing next week. I've got no choice. I just wanted to get this thing finished up, sealed up, and drying so that it can be ready to go. So from Papa's Garage, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you're looking for something in specific, let me know what you're looking for, what you're working on, what you're doing. Post some pictures of your car or a video of your car and tell me about it. I kind of like hearing about other people's projects. It's kind of nice to hear about someone else's besides my own. So if you got something and you're working on out there, definitely want to share that with us. Even if you're not all the way, this thing's been going on 10 years now. So the first time I did it, 27 years ago, all I did was just paint it, put a cam and a carb on it. But with this full build and the full customization, it's been going on for quite some time. Like I said, I enjoy this because it relaxes me, and it's, one step at a time. And you'll notice that I do bounce around quite a bit. I don't mind. I've been hung up on this tank because it's causing me to lose sleep to get it done. So I do need to get it done and dropped in, and that way it's all set. So this is just one of the last steps before I hit it with etching primer, and it'll be good to go. And then I'm just going to drop it in there for now and then go back to work on the firewall and all that kind of stuff. I just need a place to mount that tank so that when we do get the engine in, it's ready to run. So do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next week on that video.